And we can just dance the night away until we get no more. I'll shake all the hurt away so you can feel and forget who you used to be. For just tonight, could you just dance, dance the night away?
So, a few weeks ago, I made a video about how there was one night where was kind of, it was kind of like binge-like behavior. And that doesn't really happen for myself very often. And so I really wanted to kind of slow down. And I made a video the morning of because I just felt like I don't know, I wanted to slow down. I wanted to think about what was happening for me, what caused that, how would that feel if that was a normal occurrence, right? Because my clients or the people that I work with, they maybe are dealing with that pretty often, or they have in the past, and that's kind of what they're seeking relief from, which that's totally fair because it did feel pretty terrible, and I felt like I kind of almost had regrets the night before. And so since posting that video, I've been thinking about it. I've had more thoughts, and I feel like I've learned some stuff about myself that I think is valuable to share, or maybe just for myself, valuable to note and something to maybe remind myself of. So I wanted to post a follow-up video because I think that this is the benefit of slowing down. Like, this is why we want to slow down. This is why we want to think about our thoughts, and this is the benefit of it. So, something I noticed for myself is that I have more food-seeking behaviors when I have more anxiety. And honestly, like, I did not know that about myself, like, at all. And I feel like when I think back to a few weeks ago, that was like I was having so much anxiety about so many things kind of in the background that I didn't even notice. And maybe it was all just kind of surfacing, and my outlet that night must have been food. And again, I didn't know that I what really was having so much anxiety until I started to slow down, until I started to be curious towards myself and kind of asking myself those questions the night after I binged or felt like I was kind of overeating. And realizing that for myself has really been beneficial because I didn't know that before. And so now if I notice that I'm really anxious, or if I notice even that I'm food seeking a lot, because the food seeking really started pretty early in the day from what I can remember. So maybe I don't notice the anxiety so much, but maybe I notice the food seeking part, right? And so maybe that's a sign that I'm having a lot of anxiety and I need to kind of sort that out, maybe journal about it or meditate or, just kind of chill out and think for a moment, like, what is causing all this anxiety? Do I even have anxiety? Maybe that's a good place for myself to start if I'm noticing a lot of food seeking behavior. Because instead of just mindlessly turning to food and feeling sick the next day, I can try to intervene or use tools that I know have been helpful for me to do something about it so that it doesn't lead to this binging at night. But again, I didn't know that about myself. And so knowing that about me can help me in the future because I slowed down. And it can help me to do something about it because I don't really like how I feel when I'm kind of in that almost food seeking. I don't really feel like I'm in control, kind of impulsive behavior. I don't really like that about myself, and I don't like when I do that. And so intervening before it gets to the point of feeling so out of control, maybe especially more towards the nighttime, that's so helpful for me. I feel like that was such a profound moment for myself of realizing that. And I don't think I would have learned that about myself if I hadn't taken the time to slow down and think about my thoughts or even leaned into how I was feeling. Like, I wouldn't have just automatically known, like, it wasn't just obvious to me that I'm having a lot of anxiety and that's why I was eating all the food. Like, I genuinely didn't know that about myself until I started slowing down and thinking about it. And even posting that video or making that video helped me slow down and think about it some more too. Because otherwise, I probably would have just like been, oh, I hate when I do that. I don't know why I did that. And I just would have moved on and not even have thought about it. And then the next time, the next time wouldn't have been any different, right? If it happens again in the future, it would just be something that happens versus it being something that happens and I can slow down and think about it and almost lean into the discomfort of thinking about it when honestly what I wanted to do was kind of avoid it and say, there was maybe a lot of negative thoughts that I was having about myself that morning. And instead of listening to those negative thoughts, instead of judging myself, instead of kind of tearing myself down, instead I really challenged myself to get curious, lean into what's happening, start thinking about what else is going on in your life, what else could be impacting that. So I think that really was so helpful for me. And again, like I feel like just like that is literally the benefit of doing all this work, right? It's literally a different way of life. It really is about how you can be curious towards yourself so that when you see something you don't like, you can pause and stop and reflect and ask, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my life? Because the way I think about it, I guess, is for our whole lives, right? Our whole life, we're going to see things or find things that we don't like about ourselves, right? Because we're human and different stages of life are going to bring up different things. Like, I feel like dating has brought in different things of me, have brought out different things of me that I maybe didn't know about myself. Or, I'm not a parent yet, but I imagine if I'm a parent someday, that it will bring out certain sides of me or different parts of me that I didn't necessarily know was there. And so the question is what are you going to do when those things come up? Because we're not perfect. We all have flaws and we all have issues, right? Because we're human and that's just how life is. And so when you don't like what you do or you don't like how you act or you look back and you go, I wish I could have handled that differently, I think the question is, what are you going to do in those moments, right? And I think that a way of life that is beneficial for living out a life that you want and to get the results that you want is about stopping, right? Stopping, reflecting, being curious towards yourself, asking, why was this happening? Slowing down in those moments. And that can be hard. It can be hard because we're busy, right? We're busy people. It can be hard because it's uncomfortable, right? You might have to look at behavior that you aren't super proud of, right? It probably is, it's not glamorous to admit you that I overate, right? That's not a glamorous thing or a thing I'm proud of, right? But it happened. And it happens to other people, right? And the more I hear people talk about it, it is I think it's pretty normal. And so instead of shaming and hiding that, it's like how can I bring this to surface? How can I let, the shame of that almost lose its power because I'm going to be curious and because I'm going to be gentle towards myself. And I think that that is just such meaningful work. And so I think that, anyway, for me, like I need to take the time to slow down and question my thoughts. And I think that's how we change and we grow by becoming aware of what thoughts we have or what internal things are creating our actions or the things that we don't like about ourselves. And like this is not, well, for me personally, like this did not come naturally, like this has been hard work. Like I've been in therapy for years. I've been reminded countless times not to be so judgmental of myself. I've been reminded to stay curious, to kind of put judgment aside. And I think that we just forget that so easily. We just forget to be curious if it's not this, it takes time to learn that. I think that being curious towards yourself, being gentle towards yourself, not judging and shaming yourself. I do think that that's a skill. And if you don't have that skill, that's okay. But I think that we can learn it, right? We can all learn skills. We're all able to learn and grow and pick up skills that are beneficial to us. It's like a new job. When you first start a new job, you don't know everything, and that's okay, but you learn as you go. And I think that this is something that we can learn and we can grow and we can use to better our lives and to not just avoid things and push it under the rug and move on and pretend it's not happening, we can slow down and examine and be curious towards ourselves and learn about ourselves so that we can create lives that we do love and that we do feel good in. And I think that that really matters. So, I wanted to make a follow-up video because I've just had a lot of thoughts since the initial video and since that happened. And I think that it was really meaningful and I was surprised to learn something new about myself and also grateful. And I think it's just a good reminder to myself in the future if I start feeling that way, or maybe that's even a signal for myself that I'm having a lot of anxiety. And so managing that in my own life is something that I want to get better at. And so it's a continual process and we're all learning and we're all growing. And I think that that is so great. So